Hi dear students, today's topic is in fact in continuation with the memory storage devices that we have studied in our previous chapter, and now we are going to continue with the topic of virtual memory. And yes, I have posted a question in my previous presentation. This is the solution set of that question that I have posted. So, what are we going to study in this session? Definitely, we are going to study about virtual memory, how it is created and used, and why it is necessary. Then we will understand what is meant by cloud storage. Then we will discuss the comparison between storing data locally and storing data over the cloud. So, let's start our discussion with the virtual memory. Also, we have discussed in our previous class that whenever computer want to access different pages randomly or processor want to access different pages randomly from the computer storage, so it temporarily store it in a storage location in a memory that is known as RAM. But when RAM is exceeding its limit, we need to create a virtual memory into the hard drive to speed up the processing of computer. So that memory is known as virtual memory, and it can be used as an extension of RAM. When RAM is full, then we are using another type of memory that we virtually create in the hard drive, and that is known as virtual memory. So next thing is that how we are going to create a page, or how this process is actually taking place, that taking out some of the content of the RAM into the virtual memory and then sending it back whenever the RAM is available. So for that purpose, the data that is transferred is collected in a structure that is called a page. You can see the data in the form of page that is sent to RAM. This data has been transferred into a collection of 4 pages A, B, C, and D. So there is only space for 3 pages in RAM. Currently our RAM is full and there is only space of 3 pages in RAM. So say these are A, B, and D, and page C is not immediately needed. So it is sent to virtual memory. And whenever a process has been executed, say a process or a page A has been executed from the RAM, now RAM is empty. There is space of one more page here. So what we used to do, we call back the page that we have stored in virtual memory into the RAM, and hence the process continues. Hopefully you got the idea of paging, that what we are doing, we are dividing whole the memory stored into 4 pages. And yes, in RAM we have, there is a chance of storing, or there is a space of storing 3 pages only. So what are we doing? Temporarily, keep this thing in mind that virtual memory is storing the data temporarily. So what are we doing? We are transferring this page C into the virtual memory, and whenever the rest of the processing is being done from the RAM, we are going to transfer it back to the RAM. So this is the way that how virtual memory is working. Next topic is cloud storage. As we are discussing storage and memory, so whenever we are storing our data into a third-party hardware, that is known as cloud storage, and this term is very much common nowadays when we are using Google Drives or Google Storage. So in fact, we are using cloud storage. And when we are storing the data into our hardware or hard disk, that is known as local storage. So let's have a look over the comparison between storing data in the cloud or storing data locally. So we don't need to buy a hardware. As much as storage do we need, we are going to store it in the cloud storage. But in case of local storage, yes, we need to buy a hardware of much larger capacity, right? And then we don't need to be worried about the security of the hardware, as cloud storage is responsible for the security of our password or data protection, right? But in case of local storage, we need to maintain the security of our data by using different security processes maybe like securing through the biometrics, securing through the passwords, or other physical ways of saving our data from accessing from unauthorized persons. Okay, third thing, you can access the data and resources using different devices from anywhere. Yes, the same data, you are very much familiar with the Google Drive or Google emails or Google Docs, that you can access these data anywhere, even from your mobile devices, even from your laptops, even from your stations, working stations, that from where you are accessing that specific data. And for that purpose, you need an permanent internet connection. But in case of locally storage data, there is no need of internet connection. If you have access to that specific data, yes, you can easily access it. And in case of cloud storage, it's very flexible that you can increase or decrease the amount of storage space you need very easily. But in case of local storage, you cannot manage the things like that. You have to buy extra hardware if you require extra space. And if you are not using it, it's of no use. Yes, there is a permanent storage size. If you want to use it, if you don't want to use it, you have to pay for it. So this is the comparison between cloud storage and storing data locally. Here is a question from the past paper. Kindly solve this question and post it to me. I will provide you feedback according to that topic. Next topic we are going to start is network hardware. So far what we have discussed input devices, output devices and storage devices. So definitely when we are talking about cloud storage, we need a device that is required to connect to the internet. So for that purpose, we need a setup that is required for connecting the devices to the internet. So whenever you are connecting a device, you need a network interface card. Whenever you want it to log on to network, there is an extension card required that is known as network interface card. Let's see how it looks like. It looks like somewhat like this, and earlier it was connected with the help of wires, but now these are connectionless or wireless network interface card. You just have to screw it into your computer. Okay, whenever we are talking about a hardware device, there is one more terminology connected with it that is known as MAC address. MAC address is a physical address of any device. When we are talking about network interface card, yes, it is a device and it has a MAC address, Media Access Control Address. So what is MAC address? Whenever any device log on to network, an address has been assigned to it, a physical address of any device, either it's a printer, either it's a scanner, anything that is in the form of device, it must have a MAC address. As in our daily life, every person has a national identity card number. In the same way, every device has a physical address that is known as MAC address. And it is composed of two basic parts, manufacturer ID and device ID. Manufacturer ID means, for example, if a device is of Apple company, so Apple is the manufacturer of that specific device, so this is device ID for Apple. All the device manufacturer ID of Apple, all the things that are or the devices that are created or developed by Apple will have the same manufacturer code. But definitely we have different devices of Apple, for example, cell phones, laptops, etc. So every device has a unique device ID. So by combining this manufacturer ID and device ID all together, it makes a MAC address, and it's a 48-bit number. All right, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12, and each figure is each alphabet can be stored in the form of 4 bits. So you can see here 12 alphabets, and each alphabet is being stored in a 4-digit number. So altogether it is storing it into 48. where first six are manufacturer IDs and last six are your device ID. Now there are two basic type of MAC address. One is known as universally administrated MAC addresses and the second one is known as locally administrated MAC addresses. So the devices that are being used on international level that has been assigned a UAA. But the devices that are being used within a country or a locally manufactured devices, these have a locally administrated MAC address. So usually UAE is not, it's not possible to change your MAC address of UAA, universally administrated MAC addresses, but yes, there is a chance you can change LAA, locally administrated addresses can be changed. Okay, so let's proceed further. Router. As we are discussing about different terminologies or different devices related to network. So what we did so far that we have installed a network interface card into our computer. But this network interface card is connected to a router. As we have discussed earlier, that data is being stored in the form of data packets, transferred in the form of data packets. Router is responsible for routing of these data packets, that these data packets should arrive at the correct destination. Here you can see the simulation that is showing up routing different routers, routing different data packets. Then, now when we are saying that any device is connected to the internet, the protocol that it is using is known as Internet Protocol. Every device has assigned an Internet Protocol whenever it is logged on to Internet. Please keep this thing in mind. Network and Internet are two different things. Network are just interconnected computers. It can be in the form of local building. But when we are talking about Internet, yes, we are connecting with a global network or international network. Okay. Now, whenever a device log on to internet, it has been assigned an IP address. There are two types of IP address. One is known as IPv4 version 4 and IPv6. As its name indicating, it's an older version and IPv6 is a latest version. Earlier, there was less number of internet user, so this combination was quite enough to assign them of unique value whenever a user log into network or internet. But by the passage of time, there is a requirement of attaching more computers over the internet. So that's why there is new scheme being introduced or new version of IP being introduced that is known as IPv6. Here you can see huge difference that this is only carrying 2 power 32 and this is carrying 128 bit of addresses. So I just calculate the number of addresses that can be entertained by using IPv4 at 2 power 32. But when we are talking about IPv6, yes, the number of addresses that can be entertained through IPv6 is 2 power 128. Quite a huge number of addresses. So very simple difference here, you can see only the digits in IPv4, but in IPv6 you can see hexadecimal numbers as well. And yes, there is separation by full stop, but in case of IPv6 we have a separation through colon, right? So this is the difference between IPv4 and IPv6. The main advantage of IPv6 compared to IPv4 that it removes the risk of IP address collisions, has built-in authentication checks, allows for more efficient packet routing. Here is the question from the past paper. Solve it and yes, post it into comment box. Definitely I will provide you with the feedback accordingly. Yes, then dynamic IPs and static IPs. Very simple terminologies. Yes, dynamic IPs are such IPs that keeps on changing. In order to increase the security of the user, what they used to do, rather than assigning the same IP every time the user log on to a network, What they did, they have assigned a separate IP to each and every user whenever he or she logs on to internet. And static IPs are IPs that does not change. So these are quite easy to traceable. And yes, we are using dedicated lines to transfer the file or to transfer the data from one location to another location. For dynamic IP configuration, we need a dynamic host configuration protocol that is responsible for assigning a unique IP every time when a user or computer log on to internet. So hopefully you got the idea of static and dynamic IP, that one is constant always and the other one keeps on changing. So here are a few more questions related to this topic. Hopefully you got the idea of virtual memory, cloud storage, and network hardware, including network interface card, routers, IP addresses, and MAC addresses. This part of the session or this part of presentation is in fact very important whenever you are attempting your O-levels or IGCSE question, that it is weighing almost 15 to 20% of your paper weightage. So hopefully you got the idea of all these concepts of today, and keep watching my video and subscribe my channel. Thank you very much.